Fewer than 1 in 10 Americans favor the slaughter of horses for human consumption, and yet each month thousands of wild and domestic horses are sent across the border to be cut up for food.
This week in Las Vegas, horse breeders have gathered to push for reopening American slaughter plants that were closed a few years ago. Proponents say a resumption of slaughter is in the best interests of the horses themselves.
George Knapp, the I-Team, is here with reaction to the Horse Summit and its call for a slaughterhouse for horses.
Yeah, so the best way to help horses is to eat more of them. You can guess how horse advocates react to that position, although most of the horses which would end up on someone's plate are domestic horses discarded by breeders or owners. A lot of supposedly protected wild horses also find their way to the gruesome slaughter plants, even though that's supposed to be against the law. Animal welfare groups say horses, they're not livestock, they're not food animals, and when you see what happens to them at a slaughterhouse, you might be inclined to agree. Seriously, take note, this video is graphic and disturbing.
80% of Americans have no idea. They literally do not know that horse slaughter even exists. Everybody assumes that since the last of the horse slaughter plants shut down that we just don't have it.
For horse advocates like Simone, Netherlands, and 20 or so other animal welfare groups in town this week, the pro-slaughter agenda of the Horse Summit is almost a blessing because it puts public focus on an ugly but little-known industry that sees 10,000 American horses each month head for slaughter in Canada or Mexico. The horse breeders and so-called killer buyers gathered at the South Point want a reinstatement of American slaughterhouses, supposedly as the best way to deal with overpopulation of horses, including wild mustangs on the range. But horse advocates say the reason for an overabundance of horses is simple. Horse breeders get tax breaks and subsidies to crank out as many horses as they can, while keeping only the best 5%.
We just simply don't think it's a fair thing to do to breed 100 horses, see which one comes out best, and send 95 to slaughter. And they think that that's a reasonable thing to do. They think that's what you do with cows, and we say that's just not what you do with horses.
The horse groups say the idea that unwanted horses are languishing or being wasted is ridiculous. Thousands of horses every month are sold at auctions, most going to killer buyers who then cram them into trailers and haul them to Canada or Mexico. Just as many horses are being slaughtered now as before. Most of the horses are former pets, ex-race horses, or discarded stock from breeders. Their treatment after auction is horrendous. And what awaits them at slaughter is hard to stomach.
They're being shoved in trucks, trucked for days and days and days without food, without water, and they end up in the Mexican and the Canadian horse slaughter plants. Imagine what it's like to be stabbed in the spine, hung upside down, and their throat is slit. This process can literally take up to half an hour where these horses are completely conscious.
Horse Summit organizers say they want to build a slaughter plant that's humane. Netherlands and others say there is no such thing. Horses respond differently than cattle. Their flight response is more acute, which is why using a bolt to the head often ends up hitting them in the eyes or mouths. In a nutshell, they resist. But even if it could be made humane, the advocates say, Americans don't view horses as mere livestock. They're pets, companions, members of the family, not steaks or burgers or dog food. If the industry wants to cut back on unwanted horses, the solution is simple.
It would take breeders perhaps a reduction of 5% in their breeding policies to get back to a sustainable amount of horses in America that all can have good homes.
The likelihood of reopened horse meat plants in the U.S. seems slim. They were shut down when Congress cut off funding for USDA inspections. And today at the Horse Summit, BLM Director Bob Abbey said his agency does not favor horse slaughter at all. However, organizers are now talking to various tribes to see if they can open a slaughter plant on tribal land outside the purview of the USDA. If that happens, then a lot of Nevada's wild horses could end up on a dinner plate in France or Japan. And of course, we'll stay on top of the story.